The following program is being presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of ALC-TV or the City of Avon Lake.
Hi, I'm Suzie Dills. Welcome to Starry Trails Adventure Through the Stars, our March edition. So every month we're going to talk about cosmic highlights and take an adventure through the night sky. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you visit starrytrails.com. You can pull up a narrative, illustrations, maps, listen to my audio, and all the tools you need to explore the night sky from your very own backyard. So let's talk about some of the really cool things going on for the month of March. If you remember, in the month of February, we had no full moon, which was quite unusual. Well, once again, for the month of March, we're going to have 2 full moons. So the first one will happen on March 1st, and then we'll have the second on March 31st. And if you remember, back in January, our second full moon of the month is called a blue moon. By the way, another definition of the blue moon is if you have 4 full moons in a season, the third one is called the blue moon. And we're going to have some excitement with our planets this month too. So let's start off with the evening sky. Of course, we have the return of our beautiful, dazzling Venus, that gem in our western sky after sunset. So every night it's going to climb higher and higher after sunset. So when you turn west, after the sun goes down, you see the beautiful colors. Wow, it is just something to see. And coming up on March 15th, we're going to have Mercury is going to join the show. So it'll be a little bit easier to find Mercury, of course, because Venus is so bright. But on the 15th, Mercury will be at its highest altitude. So that's the night you want to try to get out and see if you can find the planet Mercury. And then something very unusual is going to happen. It hasn't happened since 2003. We're going to have Venus and the planet Uranus less than a degree apart in the western sky. Now, Uranus will definitely be hard to see because of the glow of the sunlight. So maybe find Venus first and then scan around with binoculars to see if you can locate Uranus. Now I want to tell you something unusual about those 2 planets as far as their rotation. Think about all of our planets in the solar system. Well, all of the planets, with the exception of Venus, rotate counterclockwise. So Venus is the only planet that rotates clockwise, plus it has the slowest rotation period. And then crazy Uranus, it spins on its side. So once again, if you think about if you have a globe in your classroom or you remember it from your school days, you know the Earth has a slight tilt, but it's almost upright. But Uranus spins on its side, kind of crazy. As far as our morning sky goes, we still have our lovely lineup with Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. And if you remember from last month, they were all kind of in a nice diagonal line. Well, as we go through the month of March, we will continue to see Mars and Saturn getting closer and closer together. So by month's end, they're going to be very, very close together in the southeastern sky before sunrise. And remember, Jupiter, blazing. So you'll definitely find that as you look towards the south before sunrise. So lots of great planet action. So some of our other happenings for March, don't forget we have daylight savings time. That's going to happen on March 11th. So we're going to spring forward, move our clocks ahead, and then yay, hip hip hooray, the first day of spring. March 20th, we call that the vernal equinox. So equal light hitting planet Earth. If you ever notice the sunset position, it's great to start watching it at the equinox. So the sun will set due west on March 20th. And then as we head towards summer, it's going to continue to set north of west each night. So it's pretty cool to watch that motion. Okay, we're ready to go out on our night sky adventure. So for this time of year, you probably just need a light jacket, maybe gloves, a hat on those chillier nights, and of course, don't forget to take your binoculars. And boy, I love those warm spring evenings. I love hearing the sound of the spring peepers as I'm standing under that starry sky. And don't forget to take your Starry Trail Map. So remember, we have our direction points around the map, and always remember, whatever direction you're facing, that direction will be on the bottom of the wheel. And direction orientation, sun sets in the west, and Lake Erie is to the north, and that'll help. Now, we can still enjoy those great late winter stars. So this is probably the last 6 weeks that we can get out and enjoy spectacular constellations in the southwestern sky. Of course, we know our magnificent Orion the Hunter, Sirius, we have Taurus, the Pleiades. So let's go out on our adventure. So we're going to let Orion the Hunter is going to be our guide tonight for our hike. So if you're facing west or direction of the sunset, you turn to the left. Of course, you're going to look up, and without a doubt, you'll see the 3 stars in a row that make up Orion's Belt, and then, of course, the 4 stars that outline our mighty hunter. And then, if we trace down from the belt, you will see that bright, brilliant star, Sirius the dog star. And that is our #1 brightest star in the sky. And Sirius is a part of the constellation we call Canis Major, or the big dog. Now, have you ever heard the term the dog days of summer? Well, how we came up with that is during midsummer, the sun and Sirius are very close together from our perspective here on Earth. So Sirius is behind the sun, and during the late summer, Sirius rises in the east right before the sun. So they're very close together. So people would say they would combine the heat and they would call it the dog days of summer. Think about it. And so for folks throughout the world, that star could be seen anywhere. And every culture imagined the patterns differently or held different importance for that star. Like for instance, in Egypt, I love to tell this story because when that star would rise right before the sun, the Nile River would flood. So people in that part of the world would watch that star come up, and they knew that once the Nile River flooded, it would leave behind new fertile soil so that they could plant. So how important that was. Once again, those star patterns to folks long ago. And what else is really interesting about Sirius, because it's so bright, when it shines through Earth's atmosphere, you kind of see that flickering, or you know how stars twinkle? Well, it flickers the colors of the rainbow. So take a look at that. It's great to look at in binoculars too, because you'll be able to see that effect. But when it gets really low as we head towards April, you wouldn't believe how many times people think that that's a UFO. So now we're going to turn a little more right. We're going to look for our V shape in the stars. We know that's the face of Taurus the bull. And then to the right of that is the Pleiades, or the 7 sisters. Remember, that's an awesome open star cluster to look at through your binoculars. And then we're just going to continue to turn right. We're going to find the Big Dipper. And right now at this time of year, it's coming up on its handle. It's getting higher in the sky. And then we're just going to take the 2 stars at the end of the cup of the Big Dipper. We're going to draw that imaginary line across to that next brightest star, and we'll come to the North Star or Polaris. And then, of course, to the left there, the W shape is Queen Cassiopeia. Okay, now we're going to turn again a little bit more to the right or east. Once again, keep your eye on the Big Dipper. We're going to use that as our guide because we want to try and look for Leo the Lion. If you remember last month, we took the flat part of the cup of the Big Dipper. We just went to the right. We looked for that hook shape or backwards question mark, and that's the head of Leo the Lion. And remember, that was such a great sign of spring to people long ago. So they would keep an eye out for that picture in the stars because they knew warmer weather was coming. And then if you look just a little bit above that hook shape or the head of Leo the Lion, you're going to see 2 stars that look almost identical. And those would be Castor and Pollux, the head of Gemini the twins. All right, now we're ready for our binocular highlights for the night. We're going to head back to Mighty Orion the Hunter, and we're going to look for those 3 stars below the belt of Orion. And right beneath the belt there, we're going to scan with the binoculars, and we're going to look for that fuzzy area, and that's where we're going to see those bright stars. We said last month that those bright stars are brand new stars forming in that area of space. So we call it a stellar nursery. Once again, it's called the Orion Nebula, but what a great sight to see. And it's so cool because we can see that just from our own backyard. And then let's head back to Leo. Remember Gemini the twins? This is a little bit more of a challenge because you're going to have to locate Leo, and you're going to scan to the right, and you're going to look for, once again, a kind of a fuzzy area, but when you look through your binoculars, boy, that's a beautiful open star cluster, and that's called the Beehive. So once again, you're just going to scan off a Leo. It's kind of in between Leo and Gemini, so certainly give that a try on our next clear late winter, early spring night. Well, I hope you enjoyed our hike for tonight. Boy, we had a lot happening in this month of March as we head through late winter into early spring. And boy, we have a lot coming up too. We're going to have the brilliant planet Venus visiting the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, next month. And we'll continue to watch our planet show in the morning sky. And April will bring along more and more of those spring constellations. Well, good night, folks. I hope you enjoyed our hike, and we'll see you next month.
The preceding program was presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.